there's been some dysfunction there for a while. And I go back to Payton yelling at Russ, and I wonder how much of that was a deliberate clue to anyone paying attention that this house of cards is about to collapse because it was a week away from collapsing.
Yeah, no, I mean, it definitely looks like that. I mean, we've had other moments, right? Sean Payton, I think, for the most part, is kept his cool on the sideline with Russell Wilson for most of the year. We've seen looks and a few, probably snarky comments, or at least that's what they look like when you're, reading lips on TV, but has managed to kind of control his emotions other than that one outburst. But obviously this has been driving him crazy. And yeah, they did not want to be tied to Russell Wilson just no matter what as the year went on. And like you said, with injuries or whatever there. So they were trying to kick this in motion, like you said, a few weeks ago. And I think, it's another one of those things, too, where I just look at Sean Payton and I think, one, we had inklings of this a little bit with Russell Wilson, right? We had inklings. I don't think we totally bought it. I had people like up in Seattle through the years. I could even tell you my dad did, too. That would, people try to say, this Russell Wilson stuff, it's not quite what you think, right? We have to manage him a little bit more than you would realize, right? And I think we just thought, a guy like me who's around football just thought, well, it's a defensive head coach. They're very conservative. They're always telling him not to throw, make turnovers, play that way until the end of the game where we need you to be clutch and make some magic. So I kind of always gave Russell the benefit of the doubt, right? But I think ever since he's left there, we've had Pete Carroll make some comments about Russell Wilson and not wanting to look at or wear a wristband, right, with all the plays. There's been some of that, right? I think more and more has come out along those those lines of conversations of, they did have to manage him a little bit in Seattle. And then there's limitations, like he's got physical tools, but like I talk about, when you watch him and he watches the rush way too much, he doesn't really throw the ball down the middle of the field very often. He's very reluctant to do that. I can see where Sean Payton is just frustrated and at wit's end with what Russell Wilson is, what he's got to do, how he's got to manage him. And then, of course, some of the dumb mistakes he's made throughout the year, really in some of the biggest moments we talked about. He washed that away with some clutch moments at one point during the year, but there's been more head-scratching moments from Russell Wilson than positive ones.
He had a great throw to Courtland Sutton in the end zone in that win over the Bills on the Monday night. The following Sunday night,
magic
he had a great
play.
throw, jump ball to Courtland Sutton.
Right.
And you do your quarterback rankings every year. There was at least one year where you had him as high as 3.
Yeah.
So there's something there.
Right.
There's something positive there.
Right.
I think it became an issue in Seattle of a little too much hubris that they couldn't talk him down from. Let Russ cook. He wanted to be Patrick Mahomes. He wanted to be Josh Allen. He wanted to be the guy through whom the offense and the team went. Didn't want it to be defense and running game, and I'm just the supplement to it, which is what he was in the Legion of Boom years. And my guess can only be, and this is an informed guess because we've followed it every step of the way, behind the scenes, they're trying to talk some sense into him, and it never quite worked out, so he wanted out. I want out. And remember, when this all first came up after Super Bowl 55, when he was sitting there all miserable talking to the commissioner, watching Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes play in the Super Bowl because he wants to get back there, the Saints were one of the teams that he was willing to waive his no-trade clause for. It was the Raiders, the Bears, the Cowboys, and the Saints. And Sean Payton was coaching the Saints at the time. So the moral of this story is be careful what you wish for, because he got what he wanted, and he ultimately got Sean Payton. And look what happened.
Yeah.
Now, that's not a criticism.
It exposed him a little bit.
It's an acknowledgement.
Yeah, it's an
acknowledgement of what happened.
Right. He wanted to be, to your point, he wanted to be Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or whatever. And he had 2 coaches in a row that were like, hey, we're going to try to do that for you. And it didn't work out. It failed. And there's inklings to what you're saying to show that Maybe he's not capable of being that. Maybe he has to be managed to a degree. Again, if you and I sit there and watch a game of Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Dak Prescott, right? Here's one inkling we have. Every play, they're like, hey, 54's the mic, hey, blah, blah, blah. They're signaling, they're talking and all this, right? If you watch a Broncos game, that doesn't go on. He just sits there and says, set hut. And that's not Sean Payton's offense. I know that. I mean, Sean Payton runs a very similar offense in a lot of ways to what I ran with John Gruden. And, of course, he's grown it. But, like, stuff at the line of scrimmage by the quarterback and making sure we're in the right protection and the right play, and I gave you 2 plays in the huddle, that's part of his attack. And that's not happening in Denver. And so, therefore, you know, he's been exposed that way, that he can't be like Mahomes or Dak Prescott or Josh Allen that way, to where they can make sure, hey, coach, you told me all this stuff, and I'll make sure we got it all right here at the line of scrimmage. And I think that's a problem with Russell Wilson's play as well.
Do you think the ultimate tension is, and this is one of the realities of speaking extemporaneously, and just addressing whatever captures our fancy as we talk things through. This is no different than if Chris and I were on the telephone having this conversation right now. Do you think that Russell's attitude is, I don't need any of that. I just want to cook. Just give me the ball and let me cook.
Right. I do. I think you're not wrong by that. I think he got away with that for so long, right? And there was a lot of success that he still tries to lean on that formula. But you know, he had a special defense that supported him there for a while to allow him to kind of play that way. And then, just keep the game close and I'll cook at the end of the game and run around and make some magic. And then that's the other part too, is that
which he can do. He can do.
That's
the thing.
But he can't do it to the way he used to, right? And he still tried to do it on 2nd and 9 in the middle of the second quarter. And it's leading to a throwaway, or why did you leave the pocket? It's perfectly fine, and somebody's going to be open, right? So I think there is like a little bit of all that. And I think that's, again, too, just going back and watching all the pass plays. I even went back to that Texans game that I told you I had watched already, just to give myself thoughts. Like, the thing I kept coming back to watching it going is Sean Payton's got to be going crazy, because he has to call the same play like 10 times a half, because obviously he doesn't feel like the quarterback's going to run some of the other plays the right way, and this is one of the few ones that he trusts the quarterback to do the right thing. And that, to me, is where Sean Payton's got to be like, what the hell? What's the point of hiring me and my offensive genius if I'm only going to run 8 plays? You're wasting your money even having me here. And I think that's the ultimate point if you want to maximize Sean Payton and what he can do with the Denver Broncos.
And again, back to the riffing that we were doing about a palace coup being the only way to save Russell Wilson at this point. There's no way Sean Payton has not dotted every I, crossed every T, minded every P and every Q, gotten Greg Penner and the rest of the ownership group fully on board with it. So there isn't some late effort by Russell Wilson to work through back channels and win this thing, this tug of war with Sean Payton, and get him ousted and Russell Wilson stays. I don't think there's any way Payton has left that flank exposed before he's done what he's done, especially because they've been thinking about doing this for the last couple of months. And my guess is, as of yesterday, that was when Greg Penner finally said, go ahead, you should do this. Let's keep that $37 million in hand. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.